Hello and good day to anyone who are able to read my story. What I'm about to share you was my personal experience with Tiyanak. They call me Aling Rosa, the midwife of our little town in Iloilo City. For over 20 years, I've brought life into this world. But some lives were never meant to stay. And now, one of them has come back for me. It started a week ago, but to tell you the truth, it began months earlier, when Lucia, the mayor's daughter, came to me in secret, crying, her belly starting to show. She was only 17, too young, too afraid. The father? A married man, of course, one of those powerful types who'd rather pay to bury mistakes than face them. Please, Aling Rosa, I don't want to. I can't do it, she begged me, tears running down her face. I swore I would never do such a thing, but money talks. And when she put that envelope of cash on my table, more than I could make in a year, my hands shook, but I took it. I brewed the herbs, whispered the old prayers, and gave her what she needed to solve her problem. She left pale, and by morning, the baby was gone. I told myself it was over, but now I know. It wasn't. The first time I heard it, I was preparing hylet oil late at night. The wind was howling, and my little nipa hut creaked like it always did when the storms rolled in from the sea. I thought I imagined it, a faint, soft crying, like a baby, but wrong. Too cold, too hollow, like something crying from under the ground. I went to the window, looked out into the dark rice fields, swaying in the wind. Nothing. But the next night, it was louder, right outside my door. Wah, wah. I froze, my hands clutching my chest. Who's there? I yelled, my voice shaking. Sinoka. No answer. Just that horrible crying. On the third night, it entered my house. I woke to the sound of wet, sticky footsteps on the bamboo floor. And then, the crying, right by my ear. I sat up and there it was, a baby, sitting on the floor, naked and covered in blood, its eyes milky white, its mouth filled with tiny, sharp teeth like a fish. Its arms and legs were twisted, as if broken, and its umbilical cord still hanging, black and rotting. Nane, it gurgled, looking at me with those dead eyes. I screamed. I grabbed the rosary from my neck and held it out, shouting prayers. The thing only laughed, a sound like cracking bones, and crawled toward me on its broken limbs, leaving bloody handprints on my floor. I ran to Alingberta, the town's herbalaria, the only one who might know what to do. You fool, Rosa, she spat when I told her. That's a Tiyanak, a spirit of a baby that was never meant to be born, and you made it worse. You sent it to the other side without a name, without a blessing. Now it wants to return, and it wants you. I begged her for help, but she shook her head. Some sins. You have to face yourself. The next night, it was waiting for me. When I opened my eyes, it was on my chest, smiling, its sharp teeth dripping black ooze, its tiny fingers wrapped around my throat, cold and strong. You killed me, Nane? It whispered, its voice layered with other whispers. Lucia's cries, the prayers I said while brewing the tea, the heartbeat that never got to beat in this world. I didn't mean to. I gasped, clawing at its fingers, feeling them dig into my skin like knives. Liar, it screeched and bit into my shoulder, tearing chunks of flesh. The pain was white hot, blood running down my arm, soaking the sheets. I tried to push it off, but it was like holding a sack of stones. Please, leave me alone, I sobbed, feeling my strength fade. I'll make it right. But how do you make it right when the dead come back for you? Alingberta says I must find the bones, give it a name, bury it properly, baptize it, even in death. But I don't know where Lucia buried it, and every night, the Tiyanak gets stronger. Now, as I write this, if anyone finds this letter, I hear it again. Scratching at my window, crawling under my house. I don't know if I'll survive the night. My body is covered in bite marks, my arms infected and swollen. I'm burning with fever. But if you hear a baby crying in the dark, don't go near it. Don't make my mistake, because once you hear its cry, it will never let you go. I haven't slept in 2 days. Every time I close my eyes, I see its face, gray and rotted, with those needle-sharp teeth grinning, eyes as empty as the grave I never gave it. Last night, it nearly dragged me under my house, those little hands pulling at my ankles, leaving scratches and bruises that are still bleeding now. But tonight I'm ending this. I went to Lucia this morning. She opened the door and went pale as ghost when she saw me. I must have looked like death itself. My skin gray, my arms wrapped in blood-soaked rags, fever burning me alive. "Aling Rosa," she whispered. "It's still following you?" "Where is it, Lucia?" I croaked. My voice is almost gone from all the screaming. "Where did you bury it?" She shook her head. "I didn't bury it," she whispered, tears spilling down her cheeks. "My father, he made me throw it in the old well, behind the rice fields. The well, the one everyone says is cursed, the one we never go near after dark. So, here I am now. It's almost midnight. The wind is howling like spirits in the trees, and I'm standing in front of that damn well, holding a rosary in one hand and a knife in the other. The crying started the moment I got close, soft like before, then louder, louder, until it felt like it was inside my head, screaming, "Nanay ... I nearly dropped the rosary when I heard it whisper in my ear, but there was nothing behind me, just blackness. I lowered the lantern into the well, the light swaying, showing only slimy rocks and dark water. And then I saw them, tiny bones, floating, half sunken, still wrapped in the bloodied rags I gave Lucia that night. My stomach twisted, but I knew what I had to do. I started chanting, the prayers my own Lola taught me for spirits that wouldn't rest. Sa ngalan ng Ama, ng Anak, at ng Espiritu Santo, I baptize you. Anak ng dilim, may you find peace. That's when I heard it scream. From behind me, I heard wet, slapping footsteps, and when I turned, it was there. But bigger now, twisted. Its limbs long and sharp like broken branches. Its mouth stretched too wide, filled with rows of black teeth, and its belly, bloated and pulsing, like something alive was still trapped inside. "Nanay!" It hissed, crawling toward me, its fingers scraping the ground, leaving trails of blood in the dirt. "You can't leave me," it growled, voice like a baby and a demon fused together. I held out the rosary, but it slapped it away like it was nothing. I slashed at it with the knife, but it caught my hand, sinking its teeth deep into my palm. I screamed. I could feel the flesh tearing, hot blood running. "Name me!" it shrieked, lunging for my throat. "I name you. Gabriel," I choked out, tears streaming down my face. "Your name is Gabriel. Please, Anak, let me go." It stopped, just for a moment, its face twisted, as if it was confused, as if some part of it remembered. But then it screamed again, louder than before, and leapt at me. I did the only thing I could. As it flew toward me, I threw myself into the well, pulling the bones with me. Cold water swallowed me whole. The last thing I saw as I went under was its face, hovering over the edge, those eyes finally showing something like fear. I don't remember how I crawled out of that well. I woke up this morning soaked and shivering in my bed. The wounds on my arms and neck, still there, still bleeding. But the crying, gone, for now. But as I sit here, writing this by candlelight, I can still hear the wind outside. And sometimes, something else, like tiny hands tapping on my walls. If you find this letter, know this. Some sins don't go away. Some spirits don't forgive. And if you hear a baby crying in the night, run, because naming it might not be enough. They say if you survive a Tiyanak, you're never really free. I thought giving him a name, Gabriel, would put him to rest. I was wrong, because now he's calling for his mother too. It's been 3 nights since I crawled out of that cursed well. The wounds on my arms are rotting, black veins crawling toward my chest, and I'm not the only one. Last night, Lucia came to me. She looked worse than I did. Her skin pale, her eyes sunken and hollow. She clutched her stomach like something was still moving inside her. "Aling Rosa," she whispered, standing in my doorway, soaked from the rain. I hear him too. I let her in, locking the door behind her, bolting every window, as if wood and metal could stop what's out there. She sat at my table, shaking, her long black hair plastered to her face with rain and sweat. She looked at me with eyes full of terror. "He's not gone," she said. "Last night, he was in my room." I leaned closer, my throat burning from fever. "What did you see, Lucia?" She wiped her tears, but more kept falling. "I woke up, and there he was." She choked, hugging herself. A baby, but not a baby. His skin was torn, like something burned him from the inside. His eyes, no white, only black, and he kept saying, "Mama, why did you give up on me?" Her voice cracked. "Why did you throw me away, Mama?" I felt something twist in my gut. "It's your sin too, Lucia," I said, my voice shaking. "You have to face him with me." She looked at me, horror in her face. I thought if I gave you the money, if you fixed it, it would be over," she sobbed. "But now he follows me. I see him every night. He is peeking through the window." As we sat there, trying to figure out what to do, the crying started again. Faint at first, from the trees outside. "Mama." Lucia froze, her hands covering her mouth, as the crying grew louder, closer, until it was like he was right outside the door. The candle on the table flickered wildly, shadows dancing like twisted arms on the walls. I grabbed my rosary. Lucia grabbed a kitchen knife, and then 3 sharp knocks on the door. "Mama! Mama, open the door!" "Don't," I hissed at Lucia as she stood, trembling. But she was already moving. "Maybe if I talk to him. Maybe if I say sorry," she whispered. "Lucia, no!" I screamed, but she opened the door, and there he was, Gabriel. But not as small as before, twisted, growing, his baby skin now gray and split open in places, bones poking out. His mouth stretched wide in a grin full of broken, jagged teeth. And when he looked up at Lucia, his eyes, black and endless, filled with something worse than hate. Hunger. "Mama," he cooed. Lucia gasped, her hand covering her mouth. "Gabriel, Anako, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." She reached out, and he leapt at her. Tiny fingers digging into her face, teeth sinking into her throat. Lucia screamed, falling to the floor, blood spraying across the room. I rushed forward, trying to pull him off her, but he turned to me, his mouth dripping red, his eyes glowing. "Nane!" "You too?" And he ripped into my arm, his teeth going straight to the bone. I screamed, shoving him away, but he was stronger now, crawling toward me as I dragged myself backward, slipping in Lucia's blood. Then I remembered what Alingberta said. Give him peace, or give him back what was taken. What was taken? His life. His mother. I looked at Lucia, gasping on the floor, blood pouring from her neck. There was only one way left. I dragged myself to her side, grabbed her shaking hand. Lucia, you have to take him back, I whispered, tears streaming down my face. Take him to where he belongs? Her eyes fluttered open, barely alive, but she nodded weakly. I'm sorry, Anak, she croaked. Gabriel stopped, cocking his head, watching us, and then Lucia opened her arms to him. Come, Gabriel. Mama's here now. For a moment, he just stared. Then he crawled into her lap, curling like a real baby. And as she cradled him, her body began to wither, like he was sucking the life out of her. Her skin turned pale, her eyes sunken, but she kept whispering to him. Shh, Mama's here. It's okay. Until both of them were still. The room was silent. The wind outside stopped. I sat there, covered in blood, watching the two of them. And for the first time, no crying. I don't know if it's over, but when I looked at Lucia's face, pale but peaceful, and Gabriel's little form resting on her chest, I thought maybe, just maybe, he found his mother again. Maybe that's what he wanted all along. But sometimes, at night, when the wind picks up, I still think I hear a baby, laughing. They thought it was over after Lucia cradled Gabriel. After she withered away with him in her arms, everyone in the town breathed easier. No more crying. No more shadows in the rice fields. But I knew better, because evil like that doesn't die. It waits. Weeks passed. The villagers started talking again, laughing even, as if nothing had ever happened. They looked at me like I was just an old woman who'd finally lost her mind. Even the mayor never spoke of his daughter again. But every night, when the moon was high, when the wind rattled the bamboo trees, I could hear it. Not a cry now, a laugh, high-pitched, mocking. Then last night, something worse happened. I woke up to scratching sounds under my floor. Slow at first, then faster, furious, like claws tearing at wood. I lit a candle, and when I turned to the corner of the room, there it was. Not Gabriel, not the same thing. It was a woman, Lucia's face, but pale, dead-eyed. Her stomach swollen like she was pregnant again. Her skin cracked like dry mud, and from the cracks, I could see something moving inside her, pressing against her skin as if trying to claw its way out. She smiled at me.
Aling Rosa, my son, he's not done yet. I felt like I couldn't breathe. Lucia, what do you mean? I whispered, my throat dry. She just laughed, a low, sick sound. You thought he only wanted me? No. You made him. You owe him too. Then she stepped forward, her hands holding her swollen belly, and whispered, he will be complete, in a new body. That's when I realized Gabriel wasn't done. He was coming back, and this time, he wanted to be born whole. The next day, I went to Alingberta again. She was waiting for me, like she already knew. You've done all you could, Rosa, she said quietly, lighting her herbs. But some spirits, when they grow too strong, can't be sent away. They must be stopped. How? I begged. Tell me what to do. She looked me dead in the eye. You must find where he will be reborn and end it before it begins. That night, Lucia appeared again, in my dreams. She was standing in the old church ruins, behind the rice fields. The church where she was supposed to be married, before everything went wrong. Her eyes were black, her smile sharp. I woke up, my heart pounding. I knew where to go, so here I am now, standing in front of those rotting church walls, holding a blade, a bottle of holy water, and the last candle Berta gave me. The air is cold, and the wind feels like whispers crawling over my skin. And as I step inside, I see them. Lucia, sitting on the old altar, rocking her swollen belly, and beside her, a shadow, shaped like a child, but with eyes like two pits of fire. "You came, Nane," it said, but not in Gabriel's voice anymore. Something older, deeper, like a voice that had lived in the dark forever. I raised the candle, my hands shaking. "You can't come back, Gabriel," I say, tears in my eyes. "I won't let you hurt anyone else." He laughs, a sound that makes the walls tremble. "You can't stop me. Mama is giving me life, and when I'm born, everyone in this town will pay." Lucia smiles at me, her eyes hollow. "You've owed him for a long time." I take a step forward, holding up the holy water, and Gabriel screeches, covering his eyes. But then, Lucia stands up, her belly splitting at the seams, blood and black ooze pouring out, and from it, Gabriel's form begins to emerge, but not as a baby. A full-grown thing, gray, skeletal, its bones breaking and reforming as it grows. I know what I have to do. I take the blade, plunge it into the ground, and start chanting the old rites, the forbidden prayers of banishing. The walls shake, and Gabriel screams, his body writhing in the air. Lucia collapses, crying out, her form fading. "No! Nene! Don't leave me alone again!" Gabriel shrieks, his voice like 1,000 screaming infants, but I keep chanting. Tears running down my cheeks, blood from my wounded hands dripping onto the dirt. Finally, with a final shriek that makes the air crack and burn, Gabriel bursts into black smoke, swirling and screaming until there's nothing left but silence. I collapse to my knees. The church is quiet. Lucia is gone. The wind is still. No more crying. No more whispers. But as I sit here now, finishing this letter, I can't shake the feeling that something is watching me. And sometimes, when the wind blows just right, I swear I hear, far away, "Mama."